Alright guys, hope you're all having a good weekend so far. This is going to be the first video of many focusing on tips to help you win at fantasy football. Some of the tips are going to be pretty newbie things that anybody who's played for a while are going to kind of just roll your eyes at and be like, that's kind of obvious. Most of these tips are going to come off of questions that I've gotten from other people or from aggravation that I've heard from other people. The first one that we're going to go over with, and before I get into it, I'm going to full disclosure, this is going to be basing it more off of the Fanduel system, not Fox's or Yahoo's, although a lot of this stuff will apply to those venues. I'm a big proponent of Fanduel. I think it's a fun website. It's also very easy. I also prefer the weekly games. Now, all that being said, every time I refer friends, coworkers, such and such, I always hear some of the chronic complaints. One of the big complaints I constantly hear is, how come the person I picked scored no points? Or I picked a bunch of people and they scored no points. Uh, these typically come from guys who aren't necessarily football fans, but they're gambling fans, if you will. Now, everybody knows that fantasy football isn't gambling. Uh, I tend to be one who pretty much believes that it is gambling. It's just we're all going to use a more politically correct term for it. Now, you've been staring at Carson Palmer here for a reason. Now, if you'll notice down here, update, Palmer's shoulder is out for Sunday's game against Denver. First off, the obvious reason that you might not get any points from a player who you pick is the obvious one: they didn't play in the damn game. Now, there's two ways that can happen. Either they just don't get into the game because the coach doesn't put them in, or they're injured. Okay, guys? And this is something that if you're new to fantasy football, you need to learn to follow. You don't just pick the players who you like because they're popular or because you like that team and you like that player. Oh shit, I like Peyton Manning. When he played for the Colts, he moves to Denver. I'm going to keep being a Peyton Manning fan. Yeah, that works. That's cool and all, but you need to follow his career. You need to find out if he's injured. If you're a fan of Ray Rice, and you kind of missed what happened to him and his wife, you're not going to get any points for a while, especially if you're playing in a season-long league. Week to week can also be an issue because if you're not following the people, FanDuel has no problem letting you put somebody in there who's not going to play. But they also make it easy because they give you access to the player profiles, player news, summary, and so on and so forth. And they'll actually tell you day by day, the news that's going on. So with Carson Palmer, shoulder, considers himself day to day, won't rule out participation in practice Friday. If you're checking these things on the players who you like on a day-to-day basis, you'll be able to follow this. They also have a very nice legend that FanDuel does to help all of the people kind of keep track of it. A lot of people don't know about the legend because you go in and you're focusing more on who am I going to pick for my team. But at the bottom here, you have the indicator legend. Okay, now what that does is it shows you what all these little icons next to the names are. And a lot of people miss these, don't understand what they mean. Well, injured, doubtful, probable, breaking news, recent news, because they do update the news on every player. Out. That's the one you want to pay attention to the most. And questionable. Okay. Now, Carson Palmer, right next to his name, has what? A big red O, which means he is not playing Sunday, guys. Without even clicking on the link and reading what I showed you, you know that he's not playing. So if you're a big Carson Palmer fan, you love Arizona, you throw him on there, guess what? You're not going to get any points, but FanDuel's still going to let you pick him. They're not going to throw up a giant warning that says, this player's out of the game. They're going to let you add him. So if you keep going through the process and you're adding more and more people who are out because you're just not paying attention, by the time game day comes, you're going to screw yourself. Ben Roethlisberger, okay, he's got probable listed, or a P. Come down here. He's probable. That's a pretty good indication that he will be in the game. I don't believe he actually had non-real injury related. Okay, I'm not a big Steelers fan. I haven't been following Ben Roethlisberger. Well, let's go through. Calvin Johnson. He's questionable. Okay, Detroit Lions. He's got an ankle. They're always going to let you know if you're not big into researching it on your own. FanDuel will always give you the cheat sheet to let you know what's going on. You might not want to go with somebody who's questionable because, again, they're questionable. They may not be in the game. Somebody who's probable, they're probably going to push through their injury. They're a key player. Somebody like Dez Bryant, Julio Jones, those are major receivers. I think Dez Bryant's got a shoulder thing. If I remember correctly, shoulder is probable for Sunday's game. There's no way Des Bryant's not going to be in that game. Now, could his shoulder get aggravated? Is there a high likelihood that he's going to get pulled from the game because of that injury being aggravated? Guess what? You can bring up, again, using the cheat sheet on Fanduel, and they'll give you a rundown of how his shoulder has been doing. Bryant, shoulder, was a full practice participation Wednesday. It gives you a ton of information about the status of a player's injury. Practiced fully all week. So the reality is Des Bryant's probably not going to have an issue with his shoulder. There's other players with similar issues. Julio Jones, they're going to give you an update on his ankle. It's probable for Sunday's game against the Giants. Limited in practice. So he's probably going to be one that might be at a higher risk of being pulled from the game. I highly doubt it, though, because their offensive line is already tore up. Probably going to risk his ass to try to keep the ball rolling. Pay attention, guys. Now, obviously, with your defense, you're not going to have an issue where the entire defensive line is going to be probable or injured. But you're going to have the issue all the way from kickers to tight ends to receivers, running backs, and quarterbacks. Pay attention. This is my number one tip, my first tip that I'm going to give out, because I've seen this happen before. And a lot of you guys who are more into the football game, more into following your players, more into following just the game in general, you're going to laugh at a tip like this and you're going to go, never happened to me. But guess what? There's tons of new people out there that it does happen to because they don't pay attention, and it sucks. You're going to have an opportunity to get a quarterback that might score you 20 points, and instead you get a big fat 0. All right, guys. I hope this helped. Good luck in your leagues.